Let's talk about our national championship game, Notre Dame and Ohio State. Notre Dame, furious comeback here at the end, but falling short, and Ohio State wins 34 to 23 and gets the first national championship since 2014, since the first CFP. So I guess you can say it's only fitting that they win this new edition of the college football playoff as they win this one. And they had a pretty good stranglehold on this game after Notre Dame's first drive. I'll tell you what, Notre Dame's first drive, we know the results, but I'll tell you what, that was something. That I don't know. I mean, Riley Leonard was worn out afterwards, and I saw a tweet where he was, throwing up on the sidelines. He was worn out, and I guarantee you Notre Dame was worn out because they took up over half the quarter. Like, I think there's, what, like 6 minutes left in the first quarter. You look up in a blink, and it's like, oh, wow. The first quarter's almost over. So you take a look at that drive there in which you felt like, okay, that's a tone setter right there for Notre Dame and them going to try to win this ball game and just being able to just pound the rock and just run it down Ohio State's throat with Riley Leonard, with Jarian Price. Leonard got a lot of carries on that first drive. I'm looking at the first drive that he had. He ran a one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, I think, times. He ran it a whole lot on that drive. I think 10 is what I counted here. So, good reason for him to be worn out. But with what they were doing, just with the quarterback draw, just running up the middle with him, not a whole lot of Jeremiah Love in this game. And just felt like it wasn't right for him. And also, he hasn't been right the whole playoff. And just, with how the lead Ohio State got, it was leaning towards Notre Dame just passing the ball and not really running it as much. And Riley Leonard being forced to say, hey, go beat us with your arm. So you're taking a look at that drive, you're like, okay. It's like that's a tone setter right there. And how does Ohio State respond? Because there's 5:15 left in the first quarter after they score. So it's like, okay, you know, but Ohio State, they just go down, they just do what they do, and here in the end of the first quarter and the second quarter, they end up putting points up. And Notre Dame's offense was pretty much stagnant for a lot of this game until when they started to have a little bit of a heartbeat in that third quarter. And I think you can point to a lot of things in the third quarter. I think that fumble really kind of picked them up that they forced there with Ibuka, who made a great move and looked like, oh man, Ohio State might be on the brink of scoring again. Great punch out there and getting the ball back. Of course, they missed the field goal there, and we can talk about that a little bit later on. But I think that was a really key thing that kind of jump started them and scoring 8 points in the third and then 8 points in the fourth. Because other than that, they were not doing anything and they were forced to pass. And, credit to Leonard and credit to this Notre Dame passing game. They showed up when they need to. Now, they didn't, they didn't pass it as well all season long. And, kind of thought, hey, the running game would be a big factor. But the passing game with what they did, Great House, he was great again in this game. He became Leonard's go-to guy late in this second half, and he was just making catches left and right, making excellent play after excellent play. Of course, he has that touchdown there late, and it was like, okay, we're getting into potential, Patriots Falcons territory here. It's not 28 points, it's 24, but it's like, okay, Notre Dame is down 8 now, and there's still a lot of time left in this ball game, and they still got their timeouts. So let's see what happens here. The football's a weird game, so we got time. Let's see what happens. And so he was great in this game. That slot fade that he had was excellent. I also thought, the Ohio State DBs later in this game got a little bit grabby, and that was a key part of them, and a lot of reasons uh, why, I think you could go and attack them because in Bosin would get grabby, Burke a little bit. You saw a couple of those guys do the same thing tonight. Ransom grabbed on Hancock on that great house touchdown. He kind of grabbed on him, but it didn't matter. A lot of holdings. So you kind of got to them a little bit there with some of those. And it was good to see them being exploited and trying to get those DBs caught up in holding or DPIs. But Ohio State, after that first drive, you're like, okay, how are they going to respond from Notre Dame? And they just came out and said, okay, we're just going to drive down the field here. And they drove down in 11 plays, not quite like 18 plays like Notre Dame did, but they end up scoring, and it's 7-0. And I think you take a look at this run game, and we talked about the run games having a big factor here and how Notre Dame, I think, would need to have Ohio State just run the ball here. Well, early on, Will Howard was hitting everything. He was on the money tonight. He was 17 to 21, only had a handful of incompletions. I believe he started out 12 for 12 in this game. So he was just clicking on all cylinders against this Notre Dame defense that has been really good all season long. Has had some guys get hurt, especially in that back end, but they've been good all season long. They got a lot of pressure all season long. The blitz rate was up, pressure rate was up. But in this game, they not a whole lot of it. Especially, it came to play on that last big play where Jeremiah Smith got open, where they brought 6, 7 guys. But they weren't able to affect Will Howard all that much, and he was able to make a dent in the run game along with Judkins and Henderson. There were some great calls in getting those guys some open space, especially, there's this one play, I believe it's in the second or third, where the linebackers for Notre Dame are a little bit too aggressive and going over to the left side, and Ibuka's heading on over there. But instead, no, there's a wide open hole. Judkins hits it, and it looks like he's about to take it to the house, gets caught, but ends up with Ohio State scoring on that drive. So it was just a really great play design by Chip Kelly. Chip had some really good play designs in this game and getting the ball out to his playmakers here and let them do what they do best. Now, we'll talk about the Jeremiah Smith of it all because he was pretty quiet until that last big play there from that pretty much ended the game right there. But if you take a look at what some of those guys did. Again, you take a look at the run game. They had 214 yards rushing in this game. They were absolutely beating Notre Dame to the punch in the run game, despite Notre Dame really running it heavy that first drive. Ohio State controlled the rushing game, and maybe they got a little bit too conservative with how they were running it there late, and those guys got some extra carries. But Judkins was amazing. This is why you go out and get a guy to help him complement and supplement what Trayvon Henderson does, and getting those fresh legs and having those two backs who are talented and can break one like Judkins did tonight and break one for 70 plus. So that's the reason why you go out and pay a guy like that and get him in the portal. And then the receivers, there's a couple big plays. Judkins, of course, has the touchdown there. And then Mecca Buka, 6 of 64. He was the other big play threat of the night besides Jeremiah Smith. I will tell you on that one Smith touchdown where it just seemed like no matter what Notre Dame was doing on defense early in this game, whether it was man, zone, whatever, Chip Kelly, Will Howard, they had an answer for it. And they were, you just couldn't get them stopped up. You couldn't, get them behind the chains. And you take a look at that because Will Howard is a guy that can use his legs, is really athletic. If you are playing man, well, then your back is turned and he can go and run off and get some extra yards. If you're in zone, you got eyes on them, but that can mean somebody just leaks behind the zone defenders, and that's what happened on the Judkins touchdown. Judkins was able to leak behind them, boom, wide open in the end zone for a touchdown when they were playing zone. So Notre Dame just had some trouble with that all night long, but the Smith touchdown was excellent because you could see, I believe it was Gray that, was on Smith at that point, where it looked like, Smith comes into motion Looks like it's going to be I think a reverse, and then just like nope, just goes out and catches it out wide and is wide open. Notre Dame gets caught up in man, and that's it. Probably, I know Smith has had a lot of easy touchdowns this year. That's one of the easiest that he's had. So, I mean, Ohio State had some good game plans, but again, I think maybe got a little bit conservative there towards the end of this game. I'm not saying they let Notre Dame back, but probably not the best thing. And so you had this game. It's 31 to 15. You're like, okay, Notre Dame, you got to start somewhere. So they get the touchdown there, and that was huge. You get this to 31 to 15. You're like, okay, this is reasonable now. Okay, you just got to play some good defense and you get the turnover. They did, had a good drive. Mitchell Evans had some key plays here. He had that one big one for 33, just making guys miss. But you get down there and they get stopped. And I don't know about you guys. Would you guys have gone for it there on fourth down, knowing that, hey, listen, you are down 16 points. You're going to need points to go and win this game and not field goals. You're going to need touchdowns. Now, the field goal, I understand it because at that point in time, it cuts it to a 13-point game. If you do get another touchdown, that can make it 6 points. Now, if you go for the 2-point conversion, you can make it five and say, hey, if Ohio State gets another field goal here, then that makes it still only a one possession game instead of a two possession game. So I think maybe there was some of that involved in that and saying like, hey, listen, we're going to keep this as is, keep this a two possession game. And listen, we don't know if we're going to get another chance to get back here and get points. Let's just go kick it. And obviously, college kickers, it's a doink. So college kickers, I mean, kickers in general are just some of the most unpredictable uh, just some of the most unpredictable elements you can toss into a football game at any level because you never know. Even with the good ones, sometimes you never know. And a right on the right hash just doinked it on the left upright. And for Notre Dame, yeah, that was tough because you had a good drive going, but you're able to get a stop here and you're able to get the ball back and you just make some great plays. Riley stood in the pocket really well at times, and sometimes he had to get out of it, and sometimes Ohio State ended up getting him. But he was good. He threw for 255, was 22 of 31. When he had to pass it, he looked pretty good. And again, Greathouse was really good in this game and just making guys miss, getting open. Like I'm thinking the one where it looks like Ohio State is bracketing him, and with how it goes later on in that, with that throw, looks like it's one on one. So he's able to make a guy miss, breaks a tackle, has a spin move, I believe, on Ransom, and is able to get the touchdown there. And then the slot fade that he had, that was a good throw by Leonard. I think it was a one-handed catch too. And so I mean, I guess it had to be. If you're being held by Hancock on that drive, yeah, it had to have been. So, and then you had the 2-point conversion right there, which I thought, listen, that's gutsy. You have Leonard go under center, and you go and toss it back to Faison, who throws it there, has a guy open in the end zone. And you're like, okay. And then we got this end of the drive for Ohio State. They get the ball back. They're able to get a couple first downs. And I believe I want to get this right because at this point there's about 240, 240-ish, something like that. I want to go back and look at, the specific play by play here. But at that point in time, Notre Dame has one timeout left, and it feels like the next play you go into the 2-minute timeout. And so you take a look at how that play goes. So yeah, Notre Dame has a timeout. It's 3rd and 11. Notre Dame sends 7 guys, and you have one-on-one coverage. It looked like that the guy that was covering Smith. It looks like that was just off coverage. It looked like he was 10 yards off. And I think, listen, even though Smith had not had a great day, I do not think you give him that type of soft cushion on the outside and just say and you can give him like a 10-yard head start if that's the exact yardage that he was playing off. don't give him a head start, and he goes and beats him over the top. And Will Howard just like throws it up there, and Jeremiah Smith makes the big play of the game for 56 yards there, and essentially just ends the game right there. And it was just a gutsy throw by Will Howard there at the end and just like tossing it up to one of the best wide receivers in the game. And honestly, would probably be a top pick in this year's draft. So he's just throwing it up there, knowing, hey, Notre Dame is probably going to bring blitz. We're going to have man coverage on the outside. If you got one on one, go and attack it. And that's what they did. So that was a gutsy play called there by Chip Kelly and company there. And then you had the 2 minute timeout and game's pretty much sealed. Ohio State kicks the field goal there to make it 34 to 23, and they win the national championship. So, what a wild college football playoff this was. A lot of twists, a lot of turns, and it ends with Ohio State winning the national championship. I think I've probably said this over the course of this playoff run. I don't know how this team lost to Michigan. I don't know what Michigan did to beat Ohio State. But whatever they did, it really started something where Ohio State said, like, guys, we got all these guys. We got all these guys on offense. We got guys on defense that just make plays. Why aren't we playing like, you know, the way, they played against Tennessee, against Oregon? Why are we playing like that? And they came out and they just played like that this playoff run. Texas, they got in their own way a little bit. And then Notre Dame got a little bit too conservative there towards the end, but it was just another good performance from this Ohio State offense and the defense. Made some really good plays, although the holdings and PIs, they got involved here a little bit in this game, so that's a little bit worrying there towards the end of this run. But Ohio State comes in here and wins it. And listen, this was their goal. After Michigan, I'm pretty sure the goal was win the championship, or the Ohio State fans are going to be really disgruntled. There are probably some more that are still just like, listen, I love that we won the championship, but I still hate we lost to Michigan. So, you can't please everybody. And so, listen, this is what the Ohio State team, this version, was designed to go and do, is win the national championship. They brought all those guys back, paid them, went to the portal, got Caleb Downs, got Quinshon Judkins, and said, like, hey, we have the best roster in America. And during this run, they played like it. Over the course of the season, they didn't always play like it, but in the end, they played like they had the best roster in America. And they went out and proved it on the field in 4 straight games and win this first version of the 12 team playoff. So again, I guess it's only fitting that they go and win this version after winning the first college football playoff.